All right, everyone, welcome. We're officially starting now. So if you have any background conversations, just finish those. So today is our last debated semester, and it is on migration on the Mexican-U.S. border. One of the most important issues right now in the United States and certain parts of Latin America. And I'm gonna get started by giving an introduction for my side, the left-wing side, although I'm sure my label pin here gives quite a hint of what side I'm on. But anyway, so I'm here with first off, I just want to say that there was a teacher who used to go here, Coach Anthony Manna, and even though he is not here, I hope what I hope what I say here today pisses him off in spirit. So anyway.
Was he racist?
Yeah.
No.
Basically.
Honestly, with
But anyway, I'm here with 3 demands today. The first, policy proposals, whatever you want to call them, the first is that there should be amnesty for undocumented migrants in the United States. The second is that ICE is a criminal organization of thugs and terrorists who oppress migrant communities, and it needs to be abolished. And the third is that there needs to be an easier path to citizenship. Now, why should we have those things? It is because many migrants come from Latin America, mostly Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, mostly those 4 countries. And they come here escaping very terrible conditions, and it is better to give them amnesty instead of crack down on them and make their lives harder and provide them a path to citizenship, because they are an important part of the communities here in the borderlands, the land we live on, our Atsultlan. And instead of deporting them and making their lives more miserable and sending them back to misery, it is better to provide them a path to citizenship. And that is why I propose these demands. And as for ICE didn't even exist in 2002. They've only created more terror, more oppression, and more misery. We don't need them. So those are probably the cases for the 3 demands. And a lot of people say, well, actually, it's really just one person who's told me this. Hayden Shutt has said, Holden, you're a socialist, a Marxist. How could you claim to support workers but then support these guys? They steal their jobs. And I say, no, they don't, because as a socialist, we have proletarian internationals, and we're supposed to stand with the workers of all countries of the world, wherever they come from. And it's really the bosses in the end that make things harder for the workers, not workers from other countries who steal the jobs, because ultimately it's the bosses who lay off workers and try to cut them out. And that's why solidarity among workers is important. But one last thing before I let the other side give their introduction is that we cannot have this conversation without talking about U.S. imperialism in Latin America. And that is a history that goes all the way back to the Monroe Doctrine 200 years ago. The U.S. has always seen Latin America as their backyard. They've always exploited Latin American countries. And whenever, I was reading just here on The Guardian, that the U.S., knew that what was happening in Honduras in 2009 was an illegal coup, but they did nothing about it because they like it when right-wing leaders that favor them get into power, even if it's undemocratic. They like it when these right-wing, pro-U.S., pro-capitalist leaders empower them and the elites that serve U.S. and local elite interests. And we can't have these conversations without talking about how the U.S. intervenes in their affairs. So the U.S. backs these right-wing governments in Latin America, especially Honduras. Look at what happens 10 years later is we get the Honduran migrant caravan that conservatives are so upset about. So maybe if you don't want all of these migrants to come into the U.S. and stop intervening in their affairs and making things worse for these countries. Not to mention, the Mexican-American War was all of this lush, fertile land, not Arizona, but California, was stolen from Mexico by the United States in the Mexican-American War. I mean, think about it. Mexico would probably be way richer if they had California with their fertile land and oil reserves and probably a bunch of other cool stuff. So, if the U.S. complains so much about these migrants, then they shouldn't intervene so much in Latin American affairs. And I say the U.S., I'm referring to the government, not us, because, we, the American people, we did not elect Donald Trump. The Electoral College did, against our will. And I trust that the American people are not, the majority of people in this country are not bigoted racists, but it is a few conservatives who ruin it for the rest of us. So that is my introduction. Thank you, everyone who would like to go in favor of the conservative, right-wing opinion here. What, Drew? You of all people?
I'm not even.
Well, you're supposed to be the liberal here.
I know. I mean, I'm liberal enough to not be a socialist, but I'm. Yeah. Um. So I'll try to go ahead and give a rational point of view, I guess. So ICE. It's not a very fun thing. It's not a very nice thing. They're two different, as far as I know, two different branches of ICE. One that's chill and nice, and then the other that's very aggressive and going around and I'm gonna deport you. But anyway, so the one it's actually doing its job, and they even requested to be separated from their redheaded stepchild of a program. And then at the same time, if you want to talk about America intervening in Latin American affairs, the war on drugs is definitely something that the U.S. is fighting heavily in Latin America. So all things considered, we're definitely getting in the way, for sure. But at the same time, there's also the idea that I don't know if anyone follows Mexican politics.
Almo.
Yeah, the new.
Can I interrupt you real quick, Drew?
Yeah.
If you guys are in here to be a part of the debate club, then be a part of it. If you're gonna have side conversations, get out of my room. He's up here talking to you all. This is debate club, not social club where you eat pizza. Please give him your respect. Thank you.
And as far as I know, the U.S. didn't have anything to do with that, but it is bad. Oh my gosh. Basically, he promised free things for everybody, has no way of paying for it, and he took over virtually the whole government with his party. My friend Luis was complaining about it. He is very into it. So, I guess
Wasn't he elected though?
he was elected, but he was elected by the poor. He was elected by, ironically, the socialists. But his socialist party has little actual any good plans. He wants to just give everyone free stuff, but without a way of paying for that, you can't just. What are you gonna print more money? It's not gonna work. And so he also changed the constitution so that he can just be in power every 2 years. They'll have an election every 2 years, and the way the party's set up, he'll just be reelected basically until he dies. Yeah, so that's fun. And America had nothing to do with that. But yeah, go ahead, man.
What does this have to do with water?
Actually, a lot. So consider everything's really bad, right? If something's really bad, you want to go to something way better. So you have hell, and then you have purgatory, which is America. So I mean, you don't want to live there and just live the shittiest life, right? If you have opportunities here, you're gonna take them. And for a lot of people, if you're desperate enough, what's gonna stop you? Exactly. So no matter how desperate you are, you'll probably find a way. There's always ways around it. And I'm not going to argue for or against because I have very strong opinions or just let them in. But so if you want a solution, you're going to have to fix it in Mexico or in X country. And I don't know if America is trying to fix it or what. Yeah, and I think I think the process should definitely be fixed. Because the way I know the way it works right now is takes a long time to just get a visa. It takes a long time to apply for citizenship, and it takes years and years and years. And it's way easier to get across. So if that
You need to make it
process-
easier.
Yeah. So if that process were streamlined somehow, that'd be great. Honestly, I don't know how to do that personally. I can't offer any solution for that. I have no knowledge how this thing works. But if that process were somehow streamlined, that would definitely help. And probably keep out. quote unquote.
Sorry, we're out of pizza.
So yeah. Any other questions?
I have a quick follow-up
Yeah.
before I give someone else a chance to speak. One thing I forgot to mention is that whenever Latin American countries, ever since gaining independence from Spain, these countries have done, capitalism, and for most of that capitalism, it was dominated by U.S. investors and businessmen who wanted to do business in a Latin American country where they could get away with paying workers nothing under terrible conditions. Just look at the United Fruit Company. That was a U.S. company. It did some pretty nasty things in Latin America. But when Latin American countries say, no, we're tired of this U.S.-dominated capitalism. We want a system that works for us, socialism. Then the U.S. says, no, we're not going to let you do that. Just look at Cuba. They have tried to do socialism, and the U.S. has put a blockade on them and made it much harder. Yet, despite that, they have not surrendered and are still a socialist country to this day, and one of the best countries to live in the Caribbean and Latin America. Or, Nicaragua, however, did not fare as well as Cuba. Because what happened there was when they had a revolution and then elected a socialist government, the U.S. funded right-wing insurgents and did everything they could to sabotage that government until it worked. That was in the 80s under the Reagan administration. And it goes to show that the Democrats and Republicans, they both support these right-wing elements in Latin America. And guess what? Both Donald Trump and Barack Obama put kids in concentration camps. That goes to show that no matter which party you elect, you're going to get the same racist stuff either way. And that's why I am in a third party, the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I believe if you want to support a party that's for real about change, you should support us. But that's just some things I forgot to mention. About Mexico is that I think what you were saying there shows more of a crisis of social democracy than a socialist. But anyway, I think it's time to give someone else a chance to speak here. Anyone? Olivia? All right.
Okay, so I really have no side in this. I mean, I don't think that we should build a wall because what Drew said, if people are desperate enough, they're going to find a way. I mean, there's really no point in it. And the whole point of the wall is keep illegals out, but most of the people that are coming over are illegal, but they're not the ones bringing our drug problem in. That's our problem. And it's certainly, I mean, there's a drug problem, but it's the United States, and it's mostly U.S. citizens that support the drug problem. So I feel like we should more focus on that than keeping people out of the country that supposedly bring it in. And most of the people come here out of desperation because of their living conditions in Mexico and stuff. But that being said, we also have an issue of overpopulation, and we don't have enough land here to control everyone, or if we don't know how many people are here illegally, how do we know how much land we can do, how many cities we need to build, how many buildings we need to build to keep in the income? So there should be a shorter process to keep bringing these people in so we can keep track and we can understand how many people need to come in and how many people we can hold, but definitely not a wall and make it years and years of process. There was this one YouTuber who tracked his process of citizenship into the United States, and it took him 15 years of living in poverty and no job, starvation, homelessness, relying on donations of people from his YouTube channel. It was ridiculous. So yeah, that's why I feel like we should not build a wall and not have such income, but definitely have border control to figure it out.
Thank you, Olivia. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Kate, would you like to give a conservative position?
Cool. You're vice president, Kate.
I'll speak for Kate.
Okay, well, you're secretary. You're important, too.
So, I'd rather want to.
Oh, of course. Or you can do what you want. what I'm saying.
You made some pretty solid points about overpopulation and workers in all areas. We need to honestly think about our country first. And,
a little bit more. I can't really hear you.
He would like you to speak up, please.
Okay. Olivia made some pretty solid points about overpopulation and if we have enough land and resources within our own country. If you look at how many homeless people there are across the United States, especially in LA, we need homeless veterans every day fighting for our country. So why are we working? I'm not against immigration, and let me put that out there. I'm just saying we do need to take care of our citizens here before.
I believe that's an unfair way of phrasing the problem.
All right, we all have our own opinions. This is debate club.
Because the problem's not overpopulation, it's an unfair distribution of resources.
Alright, so
Bye, Allison.
I also agree with Olivia that like some people come from other countries because like problems are going on over there. Like me personally, some of my family they're coming in from different parts of Mexico, and there is literally not even the government's running it anymore. It's gangs, cartels, and stuff that are running it. Like right now, I have a cousin over in Mexico. He spent the last 4 years over there. Because he came over here, he lived over here for 10 years, then he got deported. He's been living over there for a while, and then he's just always telling me about the stuff that's going on. So right now, I know in the area that he's living, gangs running like that area, and so at a certain time of day, they literally like shut off the electricity to like that whole area. They can't make calls after certain times. It's literally like. They like have no rights anymore. Like they can't do anything that they want. They can't play certain music or else they'll get in trouble. Yeah, I saw someone get dragged down the road, and he's been trying to get back over here. His entire family's over here, and like it's just really hard for him because like he's applied for visas, gotten denied multiple times, and he came over here 2 times. He got deported both times, and like he's just been struggling. And like there's just a bunch of stuff that's going on over there. That's why people come to this country because it's supposedly the land of the free and everything. And this country was built on immigration. That's why people came over here to get a better life for themselves. So that's what people are trying to do nowadays. They just want a better life for themselves, but they just can't receive it because of deportation.
Thank you, Jose. What was there anything else you wanted to say? Yesterday? Thank you.
So, what about the whole question of overpopulation, not enough resources? I believe that's an unfair way of phrasing what is happening because in this country, and really, in most societies, really, whether it's America or India or a lot of countries in Africa, South Africa, the Congo. The problem is not that there is overpopulation or that there's too many people. The real problem at stake is that the resources are inequitably distributed and that the rich just keep getting richer worldwide and the poor stay the same. Just read the Oxfam reports. There was like 30 people or something like that had as much as half the world's population. That just shows how stark and unacceptable wealth equality is in this capitalist world that we live in. In America, according to Huffington Post, there are like around 17 million empty houses and only about 1 million to 3 million homeless people on any given night. The resources we're not overpopulated. It's not that we don't have enough resources, it's that the resources aren't distributed fairly. There's 3 people with their hands raised in time. You haven't said anything. Thank you everyone for coming. Today we had record high attendance. It's never been this high. So thank you everyone. And while everyone's leaving, I'll personally listen to what Sire has to say.
What's your thoughts on it?
One thing to mention is that the war does cost money, so we actually have to pay for the war, and that is growing the economy. Not to mention that what he said was right. People who are determined enough and just complying with gold seen right materials to get schoolwork.
Thank you. Wait, Lily, what were you gonna say?
I mean, yeah.
What were you gonna say, Lily? What were you gonna say? Oh, what's about over? What's about over? Well, why don't I text you? Oh. You think it went all right, Mr. B?
I did. I thought it went better.
Thank you.
I think at the beginning you need to establish that